How you all doing, ladies and gentlemen? So we're today with the top 10 Legend of Zelda games of all time. Now, you may be wondering, Zelda, where did this just come from? Well, the thing is this, right? And I kind of alluded to this previously, that I'm not really sure what direction this channel is going to go to. Like, when I started this channel, I was like, yeah, there was a few videos that I really want to, like, critique, comment on. There is a lot of topics that I know and I want to, like, also share my insight on. So let us do a reaction channel. But like I just like way too much. And I started with, I think my first video was like an epic rap battle of history. And then like I got like a history recommendation. I was like, yeah, I love history. So let us see what I can let us see what I can learn and let us see what insight I can give. Okay. But I was still always thinking like, I'm not sure exactly the direction the channel is going to go, but then obviously with the history video, I got like tons of history recommendations. I was like, yeah, there's so many good stuff. So this channel will basically just be like a little bit of everything. Now, what I will be doing is I will be recording ahead. So basically, every day there's going to be a video for hopefully the rest of the year. We'll see how far I can actually record ahead, obviously, but I ideally would want to like record like a week ahead or 2 weeks ahead or so I can always like have something out every day. There's obviously a lot of recommendations by you lot that I've all noted down as well, things that I can watch. But Zelda, Watchmojo. I mean, first of all, Watchmojo, I used to watch them like all the time as like, well, more to listen to them rather than watch them. I used to like listen to them all the time while I was playing the game. When I only had one monitor, I'd like put it on so I have something in the background and then like just play a video game. Back then, I think my huge obsession was League of Legends, like 8 years ago or so. I don't really play that anymore nowadays, but still, that's basically always been my history of Watchmojo. Now, Zelda to me, I've been debating like where I would rank it in like my top 3 favorite franchises. Now, my top 3 favorite franchises in no order are The Legend of Zelda, Xenoblade Chronicles, and Super Smash Bros. Those are my 3 favorite franchises. Now, my favorite game of all time is Ocarina of Time. So this being a top 10 Legend of Zelda games of all time, Ocarina of Time, number 1. I know with Zelda especially, there's like a lot of people. Honestly, the way I see it with Zelda is like a lot of time people, their favorite Zelda game is the one that they started with, whether that's Ocarina of Time, A Link to the Past, A Link Between Worlds, Twilight Princess, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker. I haven't really seen that many people say that Skyward Sword is their favorite, and then obviously you have Breath of the Wild, which a lot of people really love. Now, Breath of the Wild for a while, I thought it was like, oh, it might just beat Ocarina of Time as my favorite game of all time. But then I played it a second time, after my first playthrough, and I was like, yeah, it's definitely a very good game, but I do have more flaws. I do see a lot more flaws now than I did previously, and that kind of just bumped it down. So for a while, it was like my number 1, and then like when I played it again, I was like, oh yeah, we'll bump it down a little bit here and there. And not to say that Ocarina of Time doesn't have any flaws, but it is what it is. Now, in terms of Zelda, what games have I played? I think I played like the majority of them. I played the very first one, obviously it's just The Legend of Zelda. I did not play the second one, the two, I almost want to say like a 2D side-scrolling. I did not play that one. Just never really looked that appealing to me. I might play it in the future, who knows. A Link to the Past, of course. A Link Between Worlds as well, of course. I really enjoyed both of them, actually, Shoot, what else? Ocarina of Time, as I mentioned. Majora's Mask. I actually pre-ordered the Nintendo 3DS version for that. I played it when I was a kid as well, but I never finished it as a kid. And then like I bought it with like the new 3DS, the limited edition thing, and I was like, yeah, perfect. And now I've got it. And I finished it and really enjoyed it as well. Wind Waker, I didn't play Wind Waker when it came out for the GameCube, but I played it for the Wii U. Yeah, so the ancient Wii U, what was a Wii U? The rare relic. Really enjoyed that. Love the art style as well. Obviously, not quite the GameCube art style, but I still really loved that game. There were some issues I had, honestly, but like if those issues weren't there, it definitely could have been like number 1, number 2 Zelda game. Just a few issues I had with it. All the Zelda games I have a few issues with them, granted, but like some I have less issues with, some I have more issues with. Twilight Princess, I absolutely loved after I got past the first 3 hours. like the first 3 hours are the slowest Zelda opening, honestly. The least interesting, least intriguing Zelda beginning ever. It kind of reminds me of like Xenoblade Chronicles 2, because I alluded to Xenoblade Chronicles earlier, where like Xenoblade Chronicles 2 it's even worse. It's not quite as bad as like the first few hours of Twilight Princess, But like Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is like the first 10 hours are relatively boring, but it's still very engaging story wise. Whereas Twilight Prince is just like, this is just like a, like whenever I try and replay Twilight Prince, I'm like, it's that big. No, let's skip it. I did really like that one power up though, where you like on this spinny thing, and you're fighting that one boss, and you're just like jumping from one side to the wall to the other. I really love that. The ice path. I know people always have issues with water temples and ice, so on and so forth. I really enjoyed Twilight Princess. If it wasn't for these first 3 hours, 5 hours or so, I definitely would have put it, much higher. Skyward Sword, I played it, never finished it. No, let me rephrase that. I finished it, but never collected anything. I only played that game for the lore. Like I did not enjoy it that much. I liked some of the twists that it had, the Mize, and then obviously how it all came to be. But like, if it wasn't for the lore, I haven't replayed it. Let me just say that I've never replayed it because I just didn't enjoy it that much. I never played the Oracle games. I never played Spirit Tracks, and I never played what's the other one? Phantom Hourglass. Okay, that's really it. I'm looking forward to Breath of the Wild 2, whatever that's going to be called. I'm assuming it's going to come out 2020. I know people are saying, no way, it comes out 2020, but I think they already have all the assets available, so it should be relatively easy for it to come out in 2020. I don't know. I'm just speculating here. But anyway, let's see what the top 10 Legend of Zelda games of all time are, according to Watchmojo. My assumption is that they're going to have Ocarina of Time as number 1, quite frankly, and Breath of the Wild as number 2, and Majora's Mask as number 3. I'm assuming that's good. They're going to be their top 3 because Ocarina of Time has a lot more people having it as the number 1, and Watchmojo is kind of like almost like a poll, really. That's always how it's been. It's almost like a poll. So I want to see what they actually have, in their top 3, but also what the low ones are. So let's get started. This series is actually near and dear to my heart. Truly near and dear to my heart. And Breath of the Wild is absolutely brilliant. Link Between Worlds. Love that game. Finished that in like a road trip that I had.
From treasure hunting, monster slaying, magic wielding greatness, it doesn't get much better than...
Okay, who is... I've not listened... I've not watched like Watchmojo in like 5 years or so. Never heard of that person before. Okay, interesting. That's a new narrator.
Name's Dave with Watchmojo, and today
we'll be
Dave. Counting down our picks for the top 10 Legend of Zelda games.
Let's go. Link to the Past.
For this list, we'll be doing the impossible.
Awakening, I didn't mention that.
Of the best in this beloved Nintendo Fantasy Action Adventure series.
Got the Switch version.
Last time we did this video was in 2014. Well before everyone was talking about how amazing Breath of the Wild was. So now it's time to ask, can it overtake Ocarina of Time? So you're just going to state it outright then. Can Breath of the Wild overtake Ocarina of Time? Well, for me it didn't. The story was lacking. That's like the big takeaway from from Breath of the Wild. That's why Breath of the Wild 2, the story is just much stronger, much more tight-knit. It's gonna overtake Ocarina of Time for me. That's all I'm gonna say, right? That's all I will say. Right now, I think I have Breath of the Wild at my third favorite game. First one being Ocarina of Time. My second one being Xenoblade Chronicles, the original one, which is what I'm so looking forward to, like the remake that's coming out next month. And then the third favorite game is Breath of the Wild. But hey, they're just saying outright, can it overtake Ocarina? Number 10.
Legend of Zelda. The classic.
It's hard to imagine the gaming world without The Legend of Zelda on the NES.
Yeah.
So remarkable was the first entry that its influence can still be felt today. It was the first console game to let players save progress, first to have a second, harder playthrough, and it featured one of the first non-linear video game worlds. While its Save the Princess story was simple, its world was not.
I'm going to pause it here multiple times, by the way, but I just want to say, right, when I played the first one, I enjoyed it, but I would never go back to it. Like I know speedrunners love it. To me, I actually have it on like the Nintendo, what's it called, like the Switch Online app thing that you get. Like you basically get it for free, really. I tried replaying it. I just can't. Right? In my opinion, it's number 10. I get it for legacy reason as well, and some people may truly have it as their number 1. I simply don't. I wouldn't. Okay, I'll have it in my top 10 as number 10 just for legacy reasons. That alone, I know that's a very bad reason to give it, but you can't have Zelda without Zelda, basically.
Secrets were uncovered in the most unlikely of places, and challenges like enemy hordes and tantalizing dungeons kept players exploring. It was as close to an epic quest that video games could pull at the time. And while it may not be the Zelda most choose to revisit, seriously, the game hasn't aged well,
Yep.
it's still a classic in every sense of the word.
Again, I don't mind this pick at number 10.
Number 9, The Link's Awakening remake.
Oh, wait. They're putting the remake here, not the... Ooh. Interesting. I know the remake improved some of the things that the previous had, but it really... I would say it really didn't change that much, so they must be going with the art style then, because this game had some terrible slowdowns, I will say. Whenever you visit a new area, it just...
Nintendo made history when they released Link's Awakening for the Game Boy
Yep.
in 1993. The fourth entry in the series was the first portable entry,
Yep.
but it's the 2019 remake with several appreciated quality of life improvements that deserve this spot.
And a
The
dungeon
story
maker.
follows a shipwrecked Link on Koholint Island as he gathers magical instruments to awake the world-creating Windfish. That's already one of the more intriguing Legend of Zelda storylines, but the Switch version utilizes one of the most delightful art styles in the franchise. This clay diorama aesthetic made rediscovering the 26-year-old map immensely fun. It's not without its flaws though, as some of the nuanced details were lost in the remake, and the chamber dungeon was a bust. But for new players, it remains the best way to visit Koholint.
This game, you know how I said I didn't play this game the original. I actually owned the original. I had it as well. I probably still have it somewhere. I just never played it for. It's just a general issue for me that like, I can have like 50 games, and I always will be like, okay, I really want to play this game, but then I'm like, ooh. Yeah, I play for like 5 minutes and then I just never play it again. But like if I actually sit down and actually play a game for like an hour, one day, or 2 hours, at a session, then I'm gonna like be binging. I basically binge games. I start them one day and then like over the course of a week I finish them. But I just can't. For me, it's hard to get started. That's really the issue. So I actually had the original one. I just never played it until I.
Number 8, Skyward Sword.
That's controversial, I feel like.
No game is without its criticism, and Skyward Sword has received its fair share.
Oh yeah.
But the game was a monumental step forward in the series when it came to storytelling. It follows the Hylians in a city above the clouds, sent to safety long ago by their goddess. As the game is set at the very beginning of the convoluted Zelda timeline, it provided fans with mountains of lore. It also featured one of the strongest relationships between Link and Zelda as they grew up together. New inventive items helped to craft exceedingly entertaining dungeons and boss fights, one of which was the vile, skin-crawling inducing villain, Girahim.
No. I'm sorry. Girahim was fun. The first time you play the game, Girahim is fun. Once you actually know once you know everything of the game, basically, it's the same issue that I have with Twilight Princess, actually. It's like, once you know all the twists and turns, it just becomes a little bit more disappointing. Just a little more disappointing. I enjoyed the motion control when it worked. When it didn't work, I felt like Red Steel is like just swing around and it kind of works. So that's my issue with it.
Slightly from the usual familiar formula, but it still does more with the formula than most of the franchise could.
I don't. Yeah, you know what? I'll put it there as well.
7, A Link Between Worlds.
Oh, I love this game. I love this game. Absolutely adore it.
Creating a sequel over 20 years later may
just-
seem strange,
yeah.
especially for a title as monumental as A Link to the Past. Nintendo provided another exceptional entry with A Link Between Worlds.
This game was so good.
Centuries after A
So
Link to the
underrated.
Past, this 3DS title focused on the connection between Hyrule and its dark counterpart, now known as Lorule. What made the game such a breath of fresh air was how non-linear you could approach its dungeons. Instead of discovering items, Link could rent whatever he needed. This made it so you could tackle the challenges in whatever order you wanted.
Yeah.
Link also had the ability to turn into paintings, letting us explore both 2- and 3-dimensionally. Discovering how this power could let us reach new areas and solve puzzles was endlessly enjoyable.
This game is one of the most underrated Zelda games, which is kind of funny considering that Zelda games are usually
6.
rated
Twilight
very
Princess.
high. Yeah, I think 6 is fine. Midna, ooh, hello there, Midna.
As the swan song for the GameCube,
My favourite
and the
dungeon.
launch title, Twilight
Boss
Princess
fight.
went back to its roots after the cel-shaded Wind Waker, but it did so with a mature aplomb of a franchise trying to reinvent itself.
Let me just rephrase it. It was not trying. The issue is, it's not really trying to reinvent itself. If it's trying to be an Ocarina of Time clone, and that is the issue that I have. From like a gameplay perspective, besides the first few hours, there's a lot more issues that I have with Twilight Princess. This was like the first Zelda game. I'll say this right away. This was Twilight Princess was the first Zelda game that I actually completed without any help. Ocarina of Time. There was like I had this game when I was like 5, 6, 7. You know, I had it like very early. I started like my first console was the Nintendo 64, and then I got the Super Nintendo, so I kind of went backwards, I guess. But my first game was like Mario 64 and Zelda Ocarina of Time, and that game, there were some sections that I just couldn't figure out, and I had to get like my friends, my cousins, so on and so forth, to help me out at there. So Twilight Princess has a very it holds a very strong place in my heart because it was the first one that I like completed from beginning until end without any help, without looking up anything, without asking friends for any help, nothing of that. And Ocarina of Time a few times actually scared me when I was a kid. Just saying, like what was it, the Shadow Temple, where you look up, it's like, you don't stay too long in that spot. The face, I guess. But yeah.
With this came nightmarish imagery clashing fantastical against the pristine kingdom. But it also birthed a story of people fighting not to be swallowed by darkness, both literal and figurative. Additionally, it benefited from Link's new wolf form, an enigmatic villain, and one of the most, if not the most, well-defined companions in Link's long history.
Midna's Lament. Return of Midna 2020. Come on.
Also in the bleak connotations were Zelda staples like Arsenal of New Toys and Treacherous Dungeons, which led to some pretty stellar boss fights like this one was stellar. This was awesome.
My favourite boss fight, honestly, maybe of all time. Straight up.
Number 5.
Wind Waker, of course. Has to be there. Has to be top 5. Easily. Love this game. And I know I only picked
Though it may
remake.
not be what many were expecting after the awesome Space World tech demo, the Wind Waker proved that cell shading was more than a good thing.
We need
Focusing
another
on
game
a
like this.
flooded Hyrule, with mountaintops becoming islands, this world already differed from most games in the series. But what really set it apart was its art style, as I said.
Yep.
Cell-shaded graphics made it look like a moving work of art.
It's a little bit
Also,
short.
it helped what is now known as Toon Link become the most expressive incarnation of the famous hero. Sailing around the great seas, charting mysterious islands, and uncovering their secrets made us feel more like explorers than any previous entry. With the elements both familiar and new, the Wind Waker paid homage to its heritage while simultaneously carving its own path. And it's one we loved venturing down.
I need to replay this
Aside from
game
the
now.
Traveler's Quest.
I really want to replay this game. Hello
Number
there.
4, Majora's Mask.
Now this is what I would call a darkest Zelda game. Just for the side stories and whatnot.
While the follow-up to Ocarina of Time isn't as revered as its predecessor,
It's
Majora's
loved.
Mask is arguably the most distinctive game in the franchise.
Oh yeah.
Set in the twisted land of Termina, Link becomes entangled in the lives of citizens, while a terrifying moon spelled destruction from above. In addition to new gameplay mechanics, like being able to turn into different species through masks, it also brought new elements of storytelling.
I just remember this game is dark, like truly the darkest, truly the darkest Zelda game, and I enjoy it for that. It's really, 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 really good. It's really good. Like straight up, this game is, I wouldn't say underrated because I know people give it a 10 out of 10. People absolutely love it, and yeah, for me, it's on my top 3. Behind like Breath of the Wild, probably behind Breath of the Wild, yeah. but I just feel like a lot of people haven't played it because it's not a traditional Zelda. It's not really the same thing. It's just so different. I feel like, come on, lads, give it a chance, lads.
NPCs had their own schedules and moral quandaries, which had never been so fleshed out. Through them, the game explored loss of love,
Yeah.
coming to terms with death, and familial reconnection.
Mm-hmm.
It's about as non-traditional as Zelda gets, but its unsettling art direction and emotionally complex side quests have helped it become a cult favorite.
Aliens are attacking.
Number 3,
Link
A
to the
Link to the
Past.
Past.
Yeah, okay, so we know what the top 3 is then. I wasn't sure if A Link to the Past or Ocarina of Time would be top. Majora's Mask would
It
be top
doesn't
3.
get much more classic Zelda than this. With the launch of the SNES came more powerful graphics and improved controls, and the only Zelda to release on the console took full advantage of the new hardware while creating a timeless experience.
Aye.
A Link to the Past gave us more Hyrule history than ever before, introducing both the Triforce and the Master Sword, but it also introduced the concept of travelling between 2 different worlds, a joyous realization of twice the map's size. More weapons, more temples, more
fun.
secrets, more enemies to vanquish,
And more
it was
fun.
bigger and bolder than the games that had come before it.
Exactly.
And it influenced the route that Zelda would go down for decades to come.
Nope, not at all. Midway of the hero lead to the Triforce. Alright, they're easy allies.
Number 2, Breath of the Wild.
Same as mine then. Same as mine then.
In 2017, Nintendo rejuvenated Zelda with one of the best
I need a
games
sequel.
of all time.
I
Link
need the
awakens
sequel.
in a desolate Hyrule a century after falling to Ganon, who had been kept at bay by Zelda ever since. But, just like the original, its story is simple, so it's not to get in your way of what this masterpiece has to offer. You could go anywhere and climb anything in this gigantic landscape, and the vast amount of content and variety will ensure that you continue.
Have some of you like seen like I don't want to call them bugs, like not glitches, but like exploits that people have been using where like you freeze time, blow yourself up, and then just fly hundreds of meters. This game is insane. The physics for this game
Hyrule
are
draws you in
absolutely
more than
incredible.
ever before. Maybe you'll spend your PlayStation
Incredible.
tracking down shrines. Maybe you'll tackle a daunting divine beast. Whatever you do, you're sure to be distracted by the moments of genuine, unexpected, beautiful, like words fail me, how amazing this game was.
Words intended for him would sound much better.
In the table.
Tones of your voice, don't you think?
Before we get to our top pick, which is probably obvious by this stage,
Yeah.
here are a few honorable mentions.
Oracle of Ages and Oracle theme. Force. I never played that. Actually, never played that. Minish Cap. Oh yeah. I forget. There's so many Zelda games. I completely forget about half them. Can you really call Crypto Necrodancer a Zelda? I didn't include it as a Zelda game. Really, it's what's the original series?
Before we continue,
yeah.
just a quick shout out to the dystopian strategy mobile game Arknights, which has just started the events of its major update, Heart of Surging Flame.
I'll allow
this
it.
event includes 3 new characters: 6-star guard
You lot
Helger,
know
5-star
by
guard
now.
Aesthesia, and 4-star Vanguard Myrtle.
Yeah, I will leave the advertising in because, quite frankly, that's how they make their money. So,
And redeem milestone rewards like
why should I
free
take it
character
out?
outfits for Castle 3
And we all know
Battle
what number 1
furniture,
is.
Battle records, and more. Don't miss out.
The Water Temple.
Number 1,
good.
Ocarina of Time.
Yeah. This boss was so easy.
It's the biggest game
Honestly.
cliche to say, but Ocarina of Time is a true work of art. Transitioning to a 3D landscape for the first time may
Oh,
have been
I
tricky,
hated
but
this.
you'd never know how masterful Nintendo
Hated
pulled it
this.
off unless you actually experienced it.
Hate
Its
Titus.
ingenious targeting system is still being used today. It has some of the most iconic music in all of gaming, and at the time, it flawlessly captured the grandiose feeling of adventure.
Yeah.
If A Link to the Past influenced the path every Zelda game would follow,
Yes.
then Ocarina of Time influenced the path of the entire medium of video games. Its
That's a bit
release was
far.
truly a historic moment, and even decades later, it wouldn't feel right giving the crown to any other entry.
I'm honestly a bit sad that it never played
In
Storm
the
of
mood
Songs.
for more awesome gaming content? be sure to check out this video here on Mojo Plays.
Alright, well, that list went basically the way I expected it, to be totally honest. It went pretty much the way I expected it. Although I probably would have had Majora's Mask as third, honestly, and Breath of the Wild as second, and Ocarina of Time first. I just need Breath of the Wild 2, whatever the sequel is going to be called, to have a good story, like an actual compelling story, and it will overtake Ocarina of Time as my favorite game. Like if it has like the same physics, improved physics, an improved world perhaps as well, a better story, then I'm good. I'm good to go. But we'll be seeing that when it comes out, hopefully 2020. I know with the whole C virus going around, there may be a point where it might get deleted. I think it's going to be Nintendo's big holiday 2020 title, to be totally honest. I thought that for quite a while now. Because they don't really have to. They've already got the assets, so they only have to like basically create the world and the story and so on and so forth. And I think that they should probably have been working on that since like 2017, end of 2017, when the first Breath of the Wild came out. Once they finished all the DLC, so that's what I think. But let me know what you all think, ladies and gentlemen. What is your favorite Zelda game? Tripping over my words here. What is your favorite Zelda game? Let me know in the comment section down below, everybody. Until next time, everyone, have a nice day. Peace out and